TatzumaKii. Yep. And I am a music producer. I produce in Koala Sampler. I prefer to work with limitation. So and I love samplers. So and yeah, I like to. I guess my sound, you could say, is definitely a bit more on the experimental zone. So yeah, I like to really push boundaries. I feel like, thinking back, my first introduction with music that I loved, that just played all the time and I kept singing it back, was probably the video game music. You know, like specifically the NES, those 8-bit sounds, because especially those games were so hard. You know, you kept dying and you kept hearing it loop over and over, and just the same level over and over. But and when you look back at what those composers were doing, though, like with such limited technology, like, it was amazing, because these melodies, we can still sing them. Like everyone can sing Mario, you know. So that was definitely probably my first, I would say, love. And then from there, you know, still as a kid, it's like the cartoons. You know, you hear the cartoon theme songs, you're singing that. But around me, like, you know, kind of my big brothers was my big cousin and my uncle. And they were always had MTV on 24/7. I grew up MTV always on the house at my nana's, BET, all of that. Like, yeah. So just that I was definitely an MTV kid. So I took in, like, and you know, MTV was like rock. It was like, it was rap. It was R&B. It was like all of that. So I really took all of that in. But definitely, Nintendo music was the first introduction. Yeah. It's funny, what actually got me into making music was, well, I always felt a pull to it, because I'm a martial artist, a lifelong martial artist. So I've been dedicated to martial arts since I was like 12. I started, and even to now, I continue to practice that. But I was so dedicated to it. Like, I wanted to be the next Bruce Lee. And I'm very kind of single-minded in my focus. So I was really dedicated to martial arts. Just naturally, I always felt a pull to music. And I remember my friend, he had like FLs, it was Fruity Loops back then, and he was showing it to me on his computer, and he showed me a little beat he made. And I remember like watching that and seeing what he made, and just inside of me, I just knew, I was like, man, if I start this, I'll never stop. Like, I just had that instinct, and I didn't want anything to, though, but I was so on the martial arts, I knew it would interfere with that. So I kind of, in a way, regret it. I'm kind of like, man, I should have just went for it. But that's just how my mind was. So, but years passed, I moved to Australia, and I got a job that actually, it came with an iPad. The job. So it's funny, I actually started on the iPad, went through the whole journey and ended back up on it. But I got an iPad, and I had it in my head that, you know what, this is a good opportunity just to give it a try, because instead of, you know, just committing and putting thousands of dollars on like an MPC 2000, why not just pay like $4, get a basic app, and just see if I like it. And I got iMachine on my iPad. I think it was like $4. Had no idea what was happening. It was just bars, I mean, like pads, and it asked me how many bars do I want, and I had no idea. I just picked a random number. There's like quantization on and off. I have no idea what it's talking about. So with zero knowledge, I'm just trying to put it together, and I ended up making a beat. It even had a change up, like my first beat, and from then I was like hooked. How I found my style, and maybe how I would define my style, I would probably start with my influences. Like, in the very beginning, I first started making beats like on that iMachine. It was definitely the RZA. He was like a huge influence to me, because I felt like what he was doing even during that time, like nowadays people might look at him and he's kind of like, you know, traditional in the full scheme of things, but he was so experimental and just left field. And like, he was on the ASR 10, he was leaving in mistakes, there was weird dropouts and stuff, and I always had an ear for that kind of stuff. So some of my first beats, I was just trying to be the RZA. I was just trying to do his drum patterns. I was trying to make the same type of sample chops. And then there was a period of me studying Dilla, you know, because I was very inspired by him. And I just went through this journey of studying like my favorite, you know, producers. And nowadays we have a resource of who sampled. So it's like, you know, who sampled's amazing because you can hear it. I'm like, what did they do? You go and see exactly what they sampled, and now you get to listen and try to analyze what they did. So I used a lot of that. I was very inspired. MF Doom is who actually probably got me into beat music. Like, that's another story. So studying him, Flying Lotus, he's a huge one for me because I feel like he took what all of those guys were doing and really pushed it to a new level. And always in the back of my head, I just felt like his stuff is so crazy. I didn't try to do what he did. Just there was a lot of exploration, and then just continued experimentation with different genres. I remember when I really feel like I started to probably get to now my style now was I sat around like 80, 90 BPM for a long time, a lot of hip hop stuff, but just because I got tired of it, I just wanted to try something new. I did my very first time trying to make something like 120 BPM. I just tried to make like a house track, like up tempo, and when I made that, it was so fun making it. And I loved it so much, I started exploring that more, and I feel like that exploration was the first time I started getting more to kind of how I sound now. It was me taking that huge experiment from what I've been doing. And then I just continued to experiment and, you know, different genres, juke, and I feel like I kind of had a thought in my head that, you know, I want to try to master every genre and then create my own. I'm currently working on my next project. It's my follow-up to my first project, Koala. Koala, it was fully produced on Koala Sampler. That album so means a lot to me because it's like represents a whole year of me grinding and building my name. Because when I first came out, you know, on Instagram, that was my first time being like, hey guys, I'm TatzumaKiii, this is what I do. I entered every challenge I could. I entered every battle I could. And every time I entered, I was trying to knock everyone's head off. I was trying to make something that like nobody heard. Like, you know, so that was the type of energy. Like I was trying to really, you know, let myself be heard. But post Walla, I kind of immediately started slowly working on what my next thing was gonna be, and it's definitely an evolution because Walla, if you listen to it, it's super hard. Plus, I didn't really know what I was doing. Like, it's also just filling it out. I mean, all the kicks were in stereo. The snares are too loud, in my opinion. It's just really crazy. But now the difference is what I'm working on now. I feel like I know what I'm doing. Yep, and everything I do is conceptual. So it's gonna be 2 projects in one in a way. So the first one's called Purunga, which people that follow TatzumaKiii, they might know that my a lot of my aura is steeped in like Dragon Ball Z folklore, right? And I'm the Namekian beatsmith. And Purunga is actually named after the Namekian eternal dragon, right? And when I looked up the word, I always had it in my brain that I wanted to make an album that kind of spoke about dreams, like what it is to like be in a dream world, how creatives were so much in our head. It came to me because I realized how much I was in my head. Like I'm bumping into stuff and like I'm zoning out, I'm losing time because I'm so in my head all the time creating and thinking about art. So thinking about the daydream and tying all that together and different ideas. And then I looked up the word Purunga. I just like the word. It turned out that it translates to the god of dreams. So I was like, wow, okay. So that just started putting things together. And then recently things in my life have been happening involving dreams and stuff and kind of putting that together. And it's like, it's just all coming together at the same time. So it's gonna be a really dope conceptual album. It's also kind of my abstract take on R&B. Cause I would say R&B is like my favorite genre. Like I'll listen to R&B, like I love it so much. So it's been really fun exploring that lower tempo, softer drums. And then on Bandcamp, when I release that, if anyone purchases it, it's gonna come with a full remix album. Because I've been working on a lot of flips, and that in itself, like right now I'm the only one that gets to listen to it when I drive in my truck, but it's definitely, I think people are gonna really enjoy it for sure. So it's different every time. I definitely I don't go by a formula. I kind of go off of the feeling, and it kind of depends if I guess where I am creatively at that moment. But I can say at this point, a lot of time probably the inspiration starts from a sound or a sample, because and then even the way I sample, I don't like to sample like whole phrases. So if I hear a sample, it's usually always going to be some type of sound in it, whether it's like a weird little one beat of a synth, or like a sound, or like a key or something. And then I'll take that, and usually I'll be inspired by like a sound. Maybe like I'll time stretch it, or maybe I'll reverse it, or see if I can come up with something that just sounds interesting, grabs my attention. And then once I kind of have an idea, like something feels good, I'll usually kind of start with the drums lately. And with the drums, I've always found that you'll come up with something unique if you start with something unique. Whereas a lot of people, they might start with the hat patterns, or like maybe kick or snare. Whereas me, I'll start with some weird texture sound, because I feel like that's now gonna guide me to a more unique place. Because if I start with the hat, it's probably gonna end up something like a common drum pattern. But usually I might, if I find like I recorded, say, one of my daughters on the swing, and it's like that's one I actually use a lot. Like it's in like it says like I don't know what I think it says yay swing or something. That's her nickname. And so I might put that in a pitch mode and hear it like, and chromatically hear how different pitches sound. And then if I hear something I like, I'll just like so that kind of, even outside of the metronome, has like its own unique rhythm. And so now if I'm letting that guide me, now I'll try to put a snare on that, and now it's in a different place. And then I'll go to like maybe the hats now, but then the hats even like, the hat might be like even like a something that was recorded, so it sounds different. And then at the end of that, from all of that, then I'll add the kick. So the kick's reacting to all of that weird stuff I started with, and now I got a unique rhythm I haven't heard before. And now once I got that, now I start using that sample that inspired me, and it just comes together like something I haven't heard before. And that's kind of what I like to do. When it comes to sounds and getting sounds, I'm actually at a point where probably so many producers have like a whole terabyte of like drum packs that they've had, like a whole entire terabyte, and you're actually never gonna use any of those sounds. It just sits there on that. And then drum packs keep coming out, your friends keep making new sounds, and they sit them to you, you use them for a challenge, and then it just sits there, you never use them again. So I'm at a point now, I've kind of started rejecting like new sounds, and I've kind of over time found a group of sounds that I like, and I just use them over and over. But probably some of my favorite sounds I've literally just took my iPad, and like on Koala, I've held it down. I've went in like my backyard, and nothing too crazy. Like I'll just take a stick and you hit it on a certain pole, and it just has a certain type of reverb and things. Or like I'm trying to think of one I use. Actually, I have like those stress Chinese balls. It's like that. And when you do it, it makes like that nice chime, and they're kind of knocking like. I've recorded that. I use that a lot. And one sound that I use a lot too is one of my cats has like a little bell, and when he's running through the house, you hear like toot. But because of the way he's moving, it's not in a rhythm or pattern. It's like kind of unorthodox. So I like those kind of sounds because it's kind of It's a bit more unpredictable. But then what I'll do when I'm making a beat with them is probably 9 times out of 10, I might have some kind of structure or something going, but then when I add in some type of field recording or something like that, I usually never use it as it is. I usually always will go in like some chromatic mode, and I'll try to hear it like a different pitch. So if it's like ding, 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 I'm like ding, 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 until, and you go super high, it's like, doesn't sound like anything. It's like something weird. And so I'll take that and I'll like find little pockets to put it in, like something like that. And it's kind of weird, something like that. But a sound like that, then I might make it mono. But in Koala, you can mono left and right, or mono left or mono right. Usually something like that, I might mono right, because I might want it like here. And then something else, I might mono here. But usually if it's the more kind of unorthodox and out of the norm it is, I kind of like playing with it. And you can do that from just field recording, just playing around stuff. Or if it's from like a drum pack you have, even I'll take like a percussion loop, like a something like that. And again, I'll do the same thing. I won't use that. I'll go in chromatic mode. You push a high pitch, like it's something weird. So I'm always trying to see what is different in it if you play around with it. And that's kind of how you get different sounds. Well, I'm definitely, I'm a big proponent of the koala community as well. And since I've kind of been out, I've had the pleasure to be a part of quite a few different communities as well, even outside of the koala community. But what that showed me is I feel like the koala community is like probably the most open I've ever experienced. Like open in terms of music and genre and the things that people make, but also because it's so accessible, varied in the range and skill as well. Like you might have someone who's like, it's dedicated, they're trying to go as far as they can with music, they want to be an artist. And then you might have someone who literally they've always wanted to have a hobby of creating music and they just wanted to try it, and Koala gives them an opportunity to just play around and try stuff, and they're just having fun. So I feel like because of that, Koala has such a diverse community. But for me personally, it's been a big part of me coming out and developing as an artist, because specifically before I even made an Instagram and came out like officially as like an artist in TatzumaKii, like for about 9 years before then was me like trying to learn how to make beats, trying to figure it out. Like I said, I was on the iMachine, but then after that I got an actual machine and trying to figure out that, and then I started getting like an SP808. I ended up with an MPC 1000, just trying to learn. I don't think I made anything good, nothing from there that I kept, but just learning. And then I started getting to a point where I started to feel like I'm kind of understanding it, but that whole time I've just kept it to myself. All the music I've only played by myself in my car. It was just for me, no matter how weird it was or how cool I thought it was. But the Koala Facebook group, I found that on Facebook. That was started by Remy. And I remember I always try to find groups, things I'm in, and that popped up. I was like, oh wow. And I saw a couple people were posting screen records and they were doing little flip challenges in there in the comments. And I was like, this is cool. But even then I wasn't comfortable with putting stuff out for people to see and to judge, because I felt like stuff I was making was, I don't know, maybe they wouldn't like it. It's a bit weird. So that Facebook group was the very first time I ever actually posted something. It was like they were doing Christmas flips, and I flipped a Christmas song and I put it on there. It actually ended up being Lights Out, which is on Walla. It's like a juke track. But I put it up there and people responded positively, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. And I even had like TatzumaKii on it, because I had that name like probably about a couple months before that, so it was also new. And then I posted another one and it was really experimental, but like people responded so positively to it. I'm like, wow, it started to give me confidence, and that really gave me the confidence to start coming out and sharing my music. And then probably 2 months after that, Remy started the Koala Beatcast, and that was on Twitch. I saw that as an opportunity to kind of, put myself out there even more, kind of battling the flip challenges, and literally from there, like from the Facebook group, Remy starting that. At that point, I started my Instagram. I really started to kind of just put myself out there, but it literally started from that Facebook group where I was kind of nervous to put anything out there. So the koala community has really been a huge part in me, like not only developing, but starting as an artist, period. Okay, this is TatzumaKii here. I'm just going to take you a quick breakdown through one of my beats. So basically you can see I've kind of structured a whole thing. I even have a whole song here, 216 bars, all arranged together. But we're going to explore this 8-bar loop right here. Sounds like this. So it sounds like there's a lot going on, but if you look at the sounds, not too many sounds. Got some drums here. Here's 2 melodic elements. And here I have a couple samples coming in and out. So first, we'll look at the drums. So this right here, that's just a drum break, actually from Bag Season Records. They have some amazing packs called the Stimulus Packs. This was actually for one of their beat battles. So, but what I like to do with breaks, I usually never like to just let a break be what it is. I always like to add some type of accents to make it a bit more unique. So if I'm gonna mute some of these samples here. I'm gonna mute these melodic elements so we only hear the drums. I'm gonna mute the bass. Okay, now what's happening? Let's go here, see that. Okay, so we have this break, but I added a couple little elements here. If I mute that, and we have here, here, and here. So there's a kick that's kind of offbeat of the break. So the break's keeping everything in line and rhythm, but I added a kick to kind of add a little bit of offbeatness, and it kind of gives it a unique rhythm. I have an open hat here that I added on top of the break. Oh, I'm sorry, here's my open hat, and that's my hat that I added. So when I add that to the break, you hear how the offbeat kick kind of adds kind of a unique rhythm. Then we have the bass, which I would have played chromatically, pentatonic. So we got here. And this is the progression I came up with. If we go over here to the samples, let's go. I'm gonna mute these elements. So here's what we got. This is a sample. Usually whenever I take a sound, this was probably in diminished that I wrote it. I made a little progression here that plays throughout. Now that's layered on top of this one here. And if you see, I'll go in the sample, you can see I reversed it. I love the sounds of reverse. I have some of my attack and release. You see on that one I have a lot of attack because I wanted to kind of fade in. And also the drums can kind of cut through it a bit more. So on top of that, I also had these keys. So if I go into that, I probably wrote that in pentatonic. See? These sounds here, I probably did that in one take. A lot of times I kind of just go by feel. I'll just explore, play around, and eventually I'll come up with something. And this is a melody that I like. And then we added these chords. So if I solo those, chords like this, I probably wouldn't have done in the grid. I more than likely went in the keyboard. You can see here now, I have them all where I want them. And this is what I played. So then, when I put all of those elements together, and lastly, I had these samples here that I brought in at the right time, and together you get this.